Greetings internet and welcome to Aaron Plays, and I hope you're doing fantastically well. This is probably going to be the last episode of my War and Peace Russian campaign. We're into December and it's actually the French turn, but I'm going to do the French and Russian combined turn because neither army has really much strength to do other than sort of look and wave at each other. And then I'm going to give my final thoughts on the actual game as a whole. Please do the YouTube stuff, and let's get down to the map. December 1812. For which time the French had completely pulled out. Well, they're still in. But, yeah, it's not looking too good. So beginning with the French turn, we have an attrition roll. So let's have a look what that actually brings. A 4. Now, we know French and French satellite forces get a -1, but then units in Spain and Russia is +1, and it's winter +1, so net +1, so that's a 5 roll. However, on a 5, only forces which have 6 to 10 or more take any losses. I don't think the French have 2. They do, they have 8 with Napoleon, so he will take a step loss, which will be on a cavalry. But apart from that, no, Poniatowski, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the Austrians. We'll take 1 step loss on a Polish unit. And then force D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's it. So the attrition losses are less than I anticipated, but that's primarily because the armies are so small now, so depleted. Alliance phase. Okay, the French are on a -1 on this dice. The roll 2 becomes a 1, no additional Austrians join them. But he'll be right back here anyway, not be doing anything. Reinforcements. 1 Frenchman, way back in Dresden. Be useful in the 1813 campaign, which reminds me that myself and Marc Rougeur will be doing the 1813 campaign, but it'll be a fresh 1813 campaign, not with these depleted forces that are shown on this map. It'll be as in the rule book, which will be a precursor to us doing the campaign, the full 1805 to 1815. And if you can find, you'll find his link in the description below. Very good channel, playing the same kind of games that I do, as in these old ones. There are a few new ones sprinkled in, which is again what I do. So we've just done the alliance phase. French movement. I think the French are going to continue now to fall back. The last city, major city, they've still got Vilna, Pinsk. It's technically on the board, technically. If the French win by a technica or draw by a technicality, that's a good result. But we're going to fall back on to Minsk with these forces here. And Poniatowski will go 1, 2, 3. So there's not going to be much movement. Force B has got nobody. He was going all the way back, wasn't he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's going to go right the way back. Force C, 1, 2, 3 will end up in Vilna. Little a 1, 2, 3. Let's see if we can force march 1 hex. Roll a 5. Doesn't sound too good. Force march with 1 hex. They're not French. They are supplied. Spain or Russia, no, they get a +2 modifier. They don't. So these are Danes that have come all the way from Lübeck and arrive on the last turn and still can't get into some front lines. These 2 cavalry will join Jerome. And then we'll have Poniatowski and Schwarzenberg pull back from Kiev. There are more French units that can move forward, so force D. 1, 2, 3. Can you force march into Warsaw? 4. He's not in Russia, so he does. Little B with 2 Poles. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Can he force march to 1 hex within Grodno? Rolls a 4. Yeah, he can. Boom. And that's it. 1, 2, 3. The Prussians fall back on Memel. No combat. Nope. Over to the Russian turn. Did say there wasn't going to be much happening, but from a completer's point of view, I think if 2 actual players are sitting there, they've probably shaken hands by now. But it's the overall campaign. The Russians are going to continue, and the first up is their attrition roll. Now that's as bad as it gets. 6. Okay, so let's have a look at their forces. 6. It all depends. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With a 6 is 1 loss. That's going to be standard cavalry. Barclay de Tolles has got 7. That's 2 losses, one of which is be cavalry, but there are no cavalry, so that's 2 infantry. Kutuzov, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1 loss. Tamarazov with 5, 1 loss. And that's as bad as it gets. Alliance roll is a net -1. It is a 1, so the French get an additional Austrian in Lublin. I could dig it out of the box, but I'm not going to. So there's 2 there. There we go. What to do with the actual... Oh, so that was the Alliance reinforcement phase. Again, 2 in Moscow. I forgot to do that Cossack. There we go. A Cossack. And now, 1 in Kiev back with Kutuzov. Movement phase. Do these 2 forces have enough to take on Napoleon? And what would that achieve anyway? A final battle? You know, the French haven't got much there. Why not? Kutuzov will leave. Or we can use this as a supply source. We can bring all this now forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3 wants to be able to force march 1 hex. He does. 4. Bagration with Constantine. 1, 2, 3, and we want them to join Kutuzov with a 3. So only 1 hex. +1 Russia, +1 Winter. That's a 5. That's what's needed. In they go. Right, let's just take all these green cubes off. So force B, 1, 2, 3. Want him to force march 1 hex. With 3, he does. He gets into Kiev. What's force B got with him? Just 1 infantry. Force A, 1, 2, 3. Want him to force march 1 hex. Rolls a 6, he doesn't. Doktorov with 1 infantry. 1, 2, 3. Force march. He doesn't. Darn cold out there. Bengessian. Okay. 1, 2. 1, 2. 3 to this side of the river. 4, 5. He needs a force march of 2. Rolls a 2. Force march of 2. Now it's Winter, adds 1. It's Russia, adds 1. Nothing else, so he only gets 1 movement point. So that gets him to there. Tomarazov, 1, 2, 3, force march of 1. Gets into Smolensk. And then we've got some in the rear Cossacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, force march of 1 with a 1, 5. And then we've got 2 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 more. Join Kutuzov in the final push. I think from these 2 Cossacks, 1, 2, reoccupy Vitebsk. 3, 4, force march 1 hex. They can, because they can reinforce into that battle. And then Barclay at the top here, finally with force C. One, 2, 3. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave. You know what? No. That's been foolish. 1, 2. Start to move over there. Keeping supply though. And that's the Russian move. With 1 big attack coming in against the Emperor. Final battle. The French have got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 factors, with Napoleon giving them 3 and the Guard giving them 6. The Russians have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 factors, with Bagration or Kutuzov giving them 2 and the Russian morale 3, taking them to 5. So it's a 1-to-1 with a -1. 1-to-1 with a -1. Oh, that's a 3. It's not good. 1-to-1 with a -1. That's a D2 on the Russians and a 1 on the French. We have the smaller force, So we're looking at the 9 column. So it's 1 loss on the French and 3 losses on the Russians. So the first loss is going to have to be on the, oh no, it can be 1 and a Cossack 2. Most of the losses have got to be 3. And 1 loss on the French, which will have to be coming from the Guard. Ooh, do I have a single guardman? Doesn't look like it. So Russian morale collapses to, well no, it doesn't collapse, it goes to 1, doesn't it? Morale's 3. So they're going to try and reinforce with the Cossacks. They need to be a 5 or 6. They rolled 2, no? And they're going to try and reinforce the Baghetissin. He rolls a 2 plus 1 is 3. They don't reinforce. That's not good. The French have got no one to reinforce with. So what does Napoleon do? He's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 versus the Russian 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. However, the factors are now pro-French because it's the Russians are still rolled because they are still the attacker. They didn't get reinforced, but they did try to carry on the battle. So yeah, let's do this. So it's 1 to 1 with the Russians rolling. -2. That's a 9, becomes a 7 at 1 to 1. 1 each. With the 8, both forces lose 1 strength point. Russians lose an infantryman. French maintaining the morale. Unfortunately, got to lose another guardsman. The Guard are bleeding. And that was it the second? Yeah. So can the French, well, what would Napoleon do now? He wouldn't carry on this fight. There's still more Russians that could. They were lucky they didn't enter last time. So the French pull back. And the Russians advance into Minsk victorious. Let's do some leader loss checks. Okay. The big one, Napoleon. No. Davout. There's a plethora of officers here. No. Bezers. No. Murat. The bravest. No. And then finally Victor for the French. No. For the Russians, we have Bagration. Close. Kutuzov. No. And Tomarazov. Oh, Tomarazov. No, he wasn't there, sorry. Wait a minute. Bagration, Kutuzov, Constantine. Constantine is out of the game for 5 months, but effectively out of this game. The Russians take back Minsk, which was the last city point. And that's where the game will end. No more battles. Let's bring this back to me. A draw. As sort of predicted, 4 turns in, and I think this is very hard not to be a draw. The overall feeling of the campaign is projected into this actual scenario quite nicely. Overwhelming French forces at the start. Russians just cannot go anywhere near them. But the further they go in, I mean, those attrition rolls early where you're losing like 10 combat factors. That's because the forces are so big. But as you're getting towards the end here, there was virtually little attrition because the armies were so small, because they've taken all the losses already. As a game, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was nice to get this back on the table. It's encouraging me to now delve further. As I've mentioned throughout a few videos, I'm going to be doing the 1813 campaign opposed, and that'll be on Vassal because my opponent lives on the other side of the planet. And then depending on how that goes, does it work with the time differences and so on, we will then delve into the full campaign, 2-player. But I, would definitely play this again solo. It works because of the intangibles of the dice, from the attrition through to the combat, and the combat can be flowing. It's decision making all the time, but you're making active decisions for both sides in a solo format, which can be a bit rare. But if you're trying to think of the best for both sides on such a minute level, at the battle level, it does work. I made a few die rolls for the strategical overthought, as in the French going down to Kiev, which I thought quite valid. All right, the Russians were able to retake it, but for a time period there, that Kiev was taken out of the equation, stopping the drive against the Austrians. So I thought that was valid. The drive up to St. Petersburg, no. The French struggled to actually get from Smolensk to, well, they didn't get to Moscow, did they? They got to throw in 3 hexes on Moscow. So yeah, that really made me think it was going to be a struggle for the Russians to take the offensive and to recapture all the cities. But in the end, what the French holding on to? They've lost Minsk. They've got Vilna, which is 1 hex away from the board, from the actual edge of the board, and Pinsk, which was right in on the edge of the board. So, and they're minor cities. All the major cities are being taken, but it did say clear the board. He says, double checking the rules, make sure he hasn't made a cock up. Wouldn't be the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. Victory. The non-French player wins if there are no unbesieged French strength points in any city on map board 4. Well, in Vitebsk, there's unbesieged French, and in Pinsk, there's one little Polish unit sitting there. So it doesn't describe what half hexes are, but the way I look at it, half hex on a board is still on a board. And both armies are absolutely knackered. They really are. I mean, Napoleon is sitting with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 35,000 men. And yes, he's falling back on his other forces, but those forces are also quite small. So, of that 645,000 that invaded, his main army is now 35,000 in strength. And that does give me the feeling of the campaign. I hope you enjoyed it as well, because get this game. Yeah, there is a 7th edition out there. Yeah, well, it's coming out. I think it's actually out. The offer at the present moment is for a reprint. No idea what it looks lovely, but you can get this on eBay for, I know I'm going to use prices here, £30, which is A, a lot cheaper. B, it plays great. Yeah, there's slight flaws in the map. Obviously the artwork has vastly improved. But get this, play this. If you enjoy this, then make it that expense of $139, whatever the postage is, will make sense. Because if you get this after my video and you start playing and you go, it's not really for me, then you don't make that investment. I'm sort of like, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? Can't make up my mind, because I've got the game, it plays well, I had fun with it, so why would I want to invest a lot of money for a game that probably won't get to the table, whereas this one, because of these hard boards, can get to the table. I think the other ones are paper maps, I'm not too sure. Maybe I have to double check. If they are mounted maps, that might be the final button that persuades me. So in review, I think it's a great game. It's still, I had this back in the 80s, played it then and loved it, and now playing it again, and I'm hopefully going to be playing it opposed soon. The rules are fairly straightforward. There's not too much to really mess with the most complicated thing is there about the withdrawing and reinforcing and the battle sequence. True, when it comes to the campaign, there's a whole another 10 pages or so with campaign rules, so that will add onto it, because you've got production, you've got naval and such forth, countries, how they surrender, how they joined the coalition, and so on. So there's a lot extra in the campaign, but I ain't going to get there yet. We've got to do the 1813 scenario first. So all I can ask you now to do is, if you can hit the like if you enjoyed this video. If you've just joined on this one, please go and watch the earlier ones. They did take a bit of effort to A, read the rules, B, clip all the counters, C, study the map, E, shoot each episode. So there's a lot of work involved in these videos. So if you could hit the like, that would be much appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, if you enjoy what I do, and comments, anything I did wrong, anything I did right. If you enjoyed it, it all helps, and I always answer a comment, even if it's just a. But yeah, I do this because I enjoy the games, and I also enjoy having you guys saying you enjoy it, A, what I'm doing, and B, saying you enjoy the games too. And then the comments between us, it's just nice. So I'm not just a little lonely guy sitting in his room playing a little board game. I'm playing it with you, and I hope I can manage to project that across to you. Until next time, have fun, enjoy the games, bye internet.